Hello and welcome, everyone. I hope you've been enjoying the summit so far. My name is Morgan Westling, and I'm a content specialist on the academics team here at Course Hero. I'm very excited to welcome you to this session titled AI as an Assistant, Not a Replacement, Enhancing the Human Element in the Age of Automation. We hope this session will inspire folks to share ideas with one another. So throughout the session, we'll welcome questions in the Q&A box, as well as comments and feedback in the chat. Leading this session today is Stanley Stepanek. Welcome, Stanley, and he will go ahead and introduce himself.
Okay, hi everybody. So yeah, my name's Stanley Stepanek. I'm an assistant professor currently at the University of Virginia in Charlottesville, Virginia. I'm in Slavic languages and literature, so I teach lots of things that would probably seem like they don't relate to this at all. They actually don't, like Russian literature, Russian folklore, a class on vampires that I'm known for, and stuff like that. That's why I have this silly background with bats and a skeleton behind me. It's what I use for my Zoom teaching. But I've used AI pretty extensively now for, oh boy, it's probably been at least 3 years or so. I don't even remember at this point. I've also trained AI for a company. I'm not allowed to give out too much information about that, but I'm very familiar with how it works. And it's always interesting to me the opinions I'll hear about AI and the utilization of it in education, especially from older professors. No offense, but some older professors even don't know how to use their email. The school I teach at, no joke. So I can understand why they might be scared of something that appears, at least on the surface, as though it's going to take over the human race, like in Terminator or something. But currently, at least, where it's at is probably not what you think it is if you're not familiar with it at all. So what I had planned for today is just talking a little bit about how AI currently works and how you can utilize it. Just so you know, as a background, I've primarily utilized it to generate lecture questions as well as questions within a digital textbook that I have for my textbooks I have for my different classes I've taught, the three primary ones. So that's where I have used it, and I've also trained AI. But I'm going to go over some things here, and then after we go over the basics of AI and how you can utilize it potentially yourself to enhance your own teaching or your own education, and then I'm going to try to we're going to see how this goes. I was planning on basically opening the floor and getting an idea of what some of you teach, and then having you actually utilize an AI system yourself to generate some questions and then verify the accuracy and basically just see how it works, give you a sort of very general basic idea about how AI can work there. Oh, it says K long raised hand. So we supposed to respond to this now? Wait, I'll just keep going. K long raised hand. Should I go to this?
Go ahead and keep going, Stanley.
Okay. Saw it pop up. Okay, so the title again is AI as an assistant. Notice what I haven't read. Okay, AI as an assistant, not a replacement, enhancing the human element in the age of automation. So I have this image here. Now, I don't know if any of you are any sci-fi fans and read sci-fi paperbacks or hardbacks or digitally on Kindle or whatever, but there used to be this really cool magazine, technically still around, called Amazing Stories, and they have a lot of sci-fi in there. So when I saw this image once, I was like, oh, I'll tell you where I got this. I said, oh, it's a AI image. Obviously, I could tell why, and I'll tell you why. But I was like, oh, it's obviously trying to emulate Amazing Stories. So, oops, get this here. It's trying to emulate Amazing Stories, which has been around for a very long time, actually. So there we have an actual Amazing Stories cover from, oh, what year was this? That doesn't matter, but volume 14, number 10, October, probably. Oh, is it down there? 1940. So this is from 1940. So that's actual human-made art there. Okay. All right, it's a little primitive in some respects, but okay, Amazing Stories, whatever. So that's what this image is from, actually, is it's an AI generated image based on Amazing Stories covers is how this was made. Someone put it into an AI art bot and it crapped this out. Stress on crap. Okay, now let's look here. Now, I have a background in art history as well as Slavic studies and some other things. So for me, when I first saw this image, I was like, oh, it's AI. I could tell immediately. There's just a sense I have for, I guess, art that enable me to pick up on that quickly. But if you look at it some more, you might yourself be able to see a couple details here that are clearly skewed. All right. Now she's pretty scared of the robot, right? Everyone's getting all scared about AI. I think they're gonna take over everything. Currently, based on what we have, that's very unlikely. Now, of course, you can't say what's going to happen 100 years from now. So, got my smartphone here. If you went 100 years ago, back in time, 1924, and said to somebody, "This thing I have in my hand here is going to enable me to do telephone calls that you do right now, and I can watch movies that you see in a big screen in the theater on here for free, and I can talk to people." It would be inconceivable. Nobody could have ever surmised back in 1924 that this would eventually be in our pocket. There's no way to do it. So, similarly, there's really no way to suggest that AI is going to take over the world as people think it would someday. Um, Anything is really possible, but based on what we currently have, you really shouldn't be afraid of it. In fact, I think you should embrace it at least a little bit. So let's go back to this image. Okay, so we got something here based on amazing stories. She's scared of the robots taking over the earth. But let's look at this in some more detail. Well, that's a little weird there. Her hand appears to be missing one finger. Now, it's possible it's behind her, but based on the pinky's placement there and stuff, she seems to be missing her ring finger. Where the hell did that go? Okay, well, that's wrong. But, maybe we'll give them a little pass on that because it could be kind of hidden in there. What the heck's with that person's face down there? That looks really bizarre. Well, it's a book about mutants in the future or something. I don't know. That license plate down there is all a bunch of jarbled nothing. What is that stuff? No, this is the result of an AI bot being asked to generate an image based on a prompt. That's what's happened here. Someone sticks a prompt into a system, says, "I want you to make this," and this is what it made. Let's look at some more. Here's the actual prompt I found eventually on Reddit. Amazing Stories, The Robot's Bride. So it says right here, Bing Image Creator Prompt at the top. That's what they use. They use Bing Image Creator for this. And the prompt, as you can see there, I won't read through the whole thing, but basically, dramatic, dynamic 1950s sci-fi magazine cover. Magazine is Amazing Stories, and the headline is The Robot's Bride. So it's saying that this is like the big story within that issue. So there's another AI-generated image there from the same prompt. And you can see it has some similar issues to it. For example, she seems to have four fingers again, a different character. We have another example, the same sort of type of car in the lower right, and it's kind of weird. Where's the driver really in there? This is bizarre. Let's look at some more. These are also images that were generated from the same prompt. We can see mistakes all over this. Her eyes are kind of weird. The mouth looks good, but the nostrils and the eyes just look bizarre. That hand has got more fingers than it's supposed to. The other ones didn't have enough. This one's got one too many. How can that happen? They forgot part of the title up there. If you look at the lettering on the other one too, in the upper left there, what the heck is that saying? The robot and jobning what the hell is all that drivel? Dry space period? Doesn't seem to make any sense. What is that in that car down there? What is that thing? Maybe it's about mutants or something. I don't know. That guy though, what in the hell is happening to this? There's mistakes all over this where it looks like something a human being can create, but there are clearly things that are wrong about it because this is the important thing to understand. Here are some other original actual covers from actual old issues of Amazing Stories in another magazine. It's not important you know what they are, but it's Amazing Science Stories. Okay, now we can see that they very similar to what we saw before in some of these images, right? So clearly there was an attempt to create something like this, but it's failed in certain regards too. This is why, okay? This is what people need to know. For example, I don't know, maybe some of you saw this movie. I finally watched the movie Megan. I should have had a slide for this. I just thought about that right now. I watched the movie Megan just like a week ago. It's about that girl whose parents die, and then she gets this robot made that's basically like a little girl that can be her companion. Okay. And eventually the robot goes crazy and like demands her companionship and starts to kill people and stuff like that. And that's the typical thing you see from people who don't know much about robotics, where it is currently at least, or AI. AI, as it currently stands, it lacks a central feature of the human mind. And this is very important. It lacks creativity. This is one of the critical details about how AI currently works, at least. Will it ever have the creative capacity like the human mind? You might think, well, how are human beings really any different from what we have with AI currently? Because the detail here is that really AI is an assimilator. It's really taking things and then creating an output of it. That's all it's doing. You might think, well, that's what a human mind does, right? Yeah, but see, a human mind can step beyond things it's learned and do new things with them. AI currently doesn't have this capability. This is the thing that people don't often know about it. It doesn't have that yet. Will it ever? It's possible, but that's a level of thinking that it may not be possible for us, believe it or not, to actually get to. Based on some things in the way we're tracking the technology and computers, you would assume it would be there, but we're not there yet. So whether or not that actually happens, we'll see. Here's something I pulled off The Onion the other day. I thought it was funny. So Facebook, of course, Meta has the Meta AI on there that will summarize, comments and stuff for you. This just kind of made me laugh here. So this is just some Onion article. Of course, The Onion is, everyone should know, The Onion is satire. So everything it does is a joke. So this article says, 2-year-old unaware he's basis for 6 couples' decisions not to have kids. Okay. And then we see some of the comments there on the right when The Onion tells the truth, et cetera, et cetera. And I like what Meta generated here. So Meta AI then generates, it assimilated everything that everybody was saying below, right? To give you a sense of all the comments. You don't want to go through all the comments, right? So what in general are we getting at it? Commenters are amused by the article, with some joking about the terrible twos and others poking fun at the idea of a toddler influencing adults' decisions not to have kids. One commenter shares a personal anecdote about being a challenging student, while another notes the article's humor may be lost on AI. And I've seen a lot of examples of this with Meta AI, where I forget what it was, but I came across some sort of, it was a joke page. It was all satire. And the way that the Meta AI summarized all the comments suggested that it actually was a realistic article when it was a total joke, making fun of some people. And AI didn't get that, right? Because all it is doing is it is going through and assimilating everything everyone says below. And it can't really grasp when someone's being ironic or not, or sarcastic, at least not yet. We'll probably get there, but see, it's lacking this sort of creativity. It lacks that creative spark. It really can't get in there like the human mind can. It can assimilate. That's the important thing about how AI is working currently. Again, we can't foresee the future, really. We can say whatever we want based on where it currently is. AI should thus be considered primarily as an assimilator. This is what it does. It assimilates what you provided and it creates an output. In the basics of AI, that's what it is. Okay, so now let me show you here how I've utilized it. Now, I'm not telling you what I use. Okay, keep that away here. That's my own personal information. But this is part of my actual text, one of my textbooks I use for my Dracula class. Okay, so it's just showing you part of one chapter there. Now, on the left side of the screen, you see I have an AI generated question there. Now, this is the AI output after I personally edited it. So in the particular digital textbook system that I use, there's a little option in there that you can generate an AI question. So I can go in there and I generate it, and then it will generate a question based on anything that came before that point in the chapter. So if I put it all the way at the end, it will assimilate and generate a question, in this case, multiple choice, based on everything above. That's what it will do. Okay, and so once it does that, you have to go through and look at it then, because it's probably going to have errors. So this absolutely, AI currently absolutely requires a human hand to make it more what it needs to be. And then eventually it will be a little more perfect. But even then, it's going to require, probably for the most part, some human operator behind the scenes to make sure it's doing what it needs to do. So on the left, we have an AI generated question that I edited and fixed. On the right, I went through a different part of my book, same book, different chapter, and I just randomly chose a spot and had the AI question generator activated. So it says right there, feature preview. This question is AI generated. Always independently verify for accuracy, as content can be inaccurate or misleading. So I know a great deal about the subject of Bram Stoker's novel Dracula and the vampire in popular culture, et cetera, et cetera. So I could look at practically anything probably that an AI generated question would give me, and anything about vampires, and I could pick out anything that's wrong in probably a couple seconds. Now, you can maybe look at so on the right, we have the raw output. This is before being edited. Now, I didn't end up using the question. I just wanted to show you what it does. So the question it generated here, and it just has a general title of question. You can change that. What is suggested by the available evidence regarding the beginning of Bram Stoker's work on Dracula? And notice the wording there. Like, it makes sense, but something about it doesn't really seem accurate. You'll find that all over the place in AI. It sounds human enough, but yet there is a sense in it that it's lacking something, that lacks that sort of real human, emotion, feeling, whatever you want to say. So you have to go through and edit these things. But that's just a stylistic thing that can be harder for people to pick up on. But other mistakes can be very easy to pick up on. Even if you don't know anything about the publication of the novel Dracula, you should be able to look at that lower right part of that screen and the raw generated result of this AI prompt, the question that was generated from the above information, and you should be able to pick out something wrong with it immediately. There it is right there. What the hell is that? It is proven by evidence that Bram Stoker, when some weird symbols pop in there. This will happen all the time. That's a very simple example of a mistake that AI can make. But obviously, you don't want to have this question generated and then leave it in the book. Students will look at it and be like, what is that? Human beings make typos too. That's why you have to go through and fix it. AI is not perfect by any means. Trust me. That's a very simple example. Now, going through some more of these details, if you know the subject, you can find out a lot about it. Now, the whole sort of, you know, controversy or non-controversy, whatever you want to say about where AI is going to take us and is it going to take over the world? Oh God, I'm scared of it. What's it going to do? I don't know what it's going to do to me. This has really all been set in stone decades ago. I don't know if any of you have read this legendary novella, I, Robot by Isaac Asimov. I forget when it first came out, 1942 or something like that. So almost 100 years ago. iRobot basically set the standard for robotics as it is today and as AI actually operates. This is something people don't know. They think, well, if I just let a computer do things, who knows what it's going to do? Because we built it and we can tell it what to do, how we want it to be done. iRobot's a really interesting book. If you've seen the Will Smith movie from when was that? I don't know, 2008. It's garbage. And one of the reasons it's garbage is, well, it doesn't follow the books, you know. So if you're a purist, you'd be like, I don't like that. But also, it doesn't follow the three laws of robotics. They mention it in the movie, but what happens by the end is impossible based on what these are. If you actually read the book, which is technically a collection of short stories he did and made a narrator for all of it, the way that the robots take control is we then rely on them to live. That's how they do it. They cannot cause us any sort of danger. That's impossible. So Isaac Asimov's so-called three laws of robotics are what they use in AI even today. This is whenever they started to make all these all these different bots and stuff like that. These three things were in mind when they did it. So we already have things in place there, going back to before robotics even really existed, to make sure that we don't do something stupid with it. So it says right there very clearly, a robot may not injure a human being or through inaction allow a human being to come to harm. Number one. So the whole Will Smith movie is impossible because that's what they do at the end. You can't. They're going against the first law. Two, a robot must obey the orders given it by human beings except where such orders would conflict with the first law. Again, movie doesn't make any sense because you're conflicting with one. Three, a robot must protect its own existence as long as such protection does not conflict with the first and second laws. So Asimov came up with this idea back in a long time ago. This is how AI works today. Let me give you an example, but I'm not going to show you a screen of this because I don't want to offend anybody. But I've done some AI training and training chatbots and stuff like that. But there are these things in the industry they refer to as tiers, and different companies have different ways of looking at it. But basically, there are certain things that AI can absolutely not touch whatsoever, and it's programmed to be like stop, and it won't do it. These are what are called like tier one conflicts or tier one conversations. So, for example, any suggestion of hate speech of any form will make the chatbot stop and say something to you like, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to talk about anything like this. In fact, you shouldn't be talking like this about this sort of thing. It won't go any further. An example of this I saw once when going through some training and talking to somebody about this was somebody had tried to go into a chatbot and have that chatbot talk to them like a white supremacist and do some role playing with this chatbot. As soon as they suggested anything like that, the chatbot is programmed to basically follow these laws and it says, nope, you shouldn't talk like that ever. I'm not going to talk like that to you. And it stops immediately. It does this for lots of things. Any suggestion of any little details. Here's another good example of that. Let's say someone's like, I wonder how I could make a plastic gun to use as a weapon and maybe like get through some security or something like that. If you go on to a chat bot and try to type in there that and how to do it, how do I make a plastic gun so no one can track me through a metal detector? It will not do it for you. It won't because it is designed following these exact three things. So AI already has these safeguards in place way before it even might get to the creative level of the human mind. It already has these things in place. It's not going to be like Terminator. It's extremely unlikely it's ever going to get there. It could get like the novel I, Robot, though, where eventually the robots realize we're kind of faulty and they make us rely on them to survive better, but they won't harm us. They just make us rely on them. That's how that book ends. Ends on a very depressing note where human beings basically give up and say, all right, well, robots took control, but they don't do it to harm us. So this is a very important detail here. And this is how AI is developed to function. Now, before I go any further here, let's see. Let me check my time here. Okay, perfect. That's about where I wanted to end for this. Okay, so this is the basic background information about what I want to talk about today. Now, before I open to any questions here, I'm just going to go to a website here and show you something. Okay, so I didn't want to use any proprietary things and stuff like that that I use, anything that's competitor with Course Hero. So I made sure I got approval for this. So I'm going to put this in the chat right now. And although I think one of the people that are helping me with this may have already supplied this to you, but if not, I'm going to put this in the chat right now so everyone has this. Okay, this is a website called openexams.com, and this is their free questions generator. I've gone through and tried a couple different things like this that I know are free and open source just to see what would be the best to use. This one is basically similar to what I'm used to using. You put your prompt in here, your information, and then you can generate multiple choice, true or false, or open question there. Generate questions. You can choose your options and stuff like that. We'll just make it simple and put it to 4. Okay. All right. So, at any rate, let me put this into the chat real quick here, the direct link, because what I plan to do with this, okay, there it is in chat for everybody. What I plan to do with this is after I just show you real quick how this works and how to go through it. And, again, this is potentially something you could use to generate questions for an exam. You could go through and make a ton of the questions like this, and you could then take those questions, type them up, and you got your exam ready. So, in being in a simulator, AI could save you a lot of time. Maybe you're like, oh, God, I don't know how to make a question out of this chapter I read. This sucks. Paste the whole thing in there. We'll do it for you. But as the human being asking it to do this, you have to go through and check it, of course. So there still is a little work. It just really saves time as in a simulator. So being that I teach a class called Dracula and I talk about vampires and stuff, I just quickly pulled up Wikipedia article before we started talking today about Dracula the novel and mentioned some other stuff in there. Okay, so let's see. I'm just going to go here. I know all about the plot of this book, so I'm going to go here. I'm just going to cut and paste the plot of this. Okay, Control C. I'm gonna go back to the website. I don't think it has a word count maximum, but we'll see. Probably has something at least. Okay, it took everything in there. So I put that in there. I just directly cut and paste this whole chunk right here. Okay. Now I'm gonna start with multiple choice. We're gonna have this generate some questions for us here. I just put 4 options. All right, generate questions. Bing. Take around 30 seconds. So now what the AI is doing, it's not gonna take care of the human race yet. It is taking all that information, assimilating it, and creating questions out of it. So it's going to generate some multiple choice. And it gave us a bunch. So look, woo, nice. I got 10 questions out of that crap. And we got 4 responses for each. Okay, let's see. Now I'm going to show you myself. Okay, so now I'm the operator here. I'm the one that had it. I gave it the prompt, in this case, bulk of information. I said, give me some questions. It gave me the questions. I should not just take these. Now, I don't know. These all could be accurate. Maybe they are. But regardless, I'm going to have to check. So question 1 here. Who visits Count Dracula at his castle in the Carpathian Mountains? Jonathan Harker, B. Correct. That one's good. I like the wording too. All right. Well, I'm good with that question. That's fine. I can put that in a multiple choice test if I wanted to. Question 2. What warning does Count Dracula give to Jonathan Harker, which is ultimately ignored? Not to open certain boxes in the castle. Wrong. That's wrong. Stay away from his coffins. If that's an incorrect answer, okay, we could have that in there. Beware of the werewolves in the area. Do not venture out after dark. So basically, all these have something wrong with them. One thing you might notice is, well, where's the periods? There ain't proper punctuation here. We got some problems with the syntax and the structure we had to consider, but A, which is being selected as the correct answer, is absolutely not correct. So that question now needs edited. I'd have to go through and edit that. He tells them not to go in these rooms in the castle, not the boxes. Okay, what item does Dracula give to the vampire woman in the castle? A small child bound inside of a bag. That's true. Okay, good. That one's good to go. And the other incorrect ones, we can be fine with this. What does Von Helsing diagnose Lucy with? Acute blood loss. Correct. How does Dracula communicate with Seward's patient Renfield? By using Renfield to enter the asylum. That doesn't even make any sense. Wrong. That one needs fixed. I'm not going to go through all the details now. I'm just showing you. So we got 2 already that are incorrect things in there. 6. So we got 2 out of 10 wrong. Question 6. Who is cursed to become a vampire after her death unless Dracula is killed? Mina Murray. Technically also Lucy. D could also be correct here. Uh-oh. So technically B is correct, but D could also be correct, which would also be C technically, because Lucy, maybe referred to as Mrs. That would be a little too confusing to a student if I had that on a multiple choice test. That requires some editing. So for example, I'll go into more detail about this one. Mina is fine, that's correct. C, Mrs. Westenra, undoubtedly a student would get confused and think they meant Lucy. So put there instead Lucy's mother. Lucy Westenra, though, could also be somebody who could, so that is also correct technically. Take that out and let's instead stick in there Quincy Morris. Then that makes the question better. Okay, so we had this one question earlier up here. 2 was wrong. Let's see. 5 is wrong. And 6 also has something wrong. That's 3 out of 10 that have problems. Question 7. What did the vampire hunters seal inside the boxes of earth belonging to Dracula? Well, first off, they don't seal all of them, so that's got some incorrect information there. Wafers of sacramental bread. Uh, Correct, but it's worded in a weird way. Better to just say communion wafers there than wafers of sacramental bread. See, the wording's kind of odd. Okay, so that one, okay, but needs fixed too. 4 out of 10 we got problems with. Question 8. How do the vampire hunters render the earth boxes useless to Dracula? Weird wording again. Why are you calling them earth boxes? Boxes of earth would be more proper English to put in there. Whether or not you're a native speaker of English, you probably picked up on that. Render the earth boxes? Are the boxes made out of earth? Because with the English you're using there, that could be the information I'm getting out of it. Boxes of earth is different. Okay, let's see. So we got a problem with this too, right? So we got around the half of them now. How do the vampires render the boxes of earth useless to Dracula? Okay, that's part of what they do. They also use crucifixes. So it's correct, but it needs a little thing added in there. So that's another one. We're at 5 out of 10 now. Crap. Question 9. How does Dracula finally meet his end? By being decapitated by Jonathan Harker. Holy crap, that is 10 billion% wrong. Jonathan Harker slices his throat. What actually kills him is Quincy Morris takes a knife and puts it in his chest. This is 6 questions out of 10 with problems. Question 10. Who finally destroys Dracula by decapitating him? Mina Murray. Well, if you're talking about the 1992 film, yes, but that's not what this is about. We're talking about the book. So I almost want to go back to the Wikipedia article now and be like, what the hell do you have in here? Let's see. I look at that. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, so it's also drawing information apparently out of other sources. We have over half of the questions generated from the simple AI system that have something wrong with them or are outright incorrect and will need edited 100% by the human operator to make them usable for an actual class. If you went and used those as they are, you just failed. You failed. All right, so now let's see what happens if you go true or false. I'm curious about this. Oh yeah, perfect timing here. I wanted to show you a little bit, and then what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to open the floor here. It's going to be tough because there's so many of you. We got over 300 people in here. Dang it. That's great. I'm happy, but it's going to be hard to go through that many people. So what I was hoping for is I want you just to basically say the kind of stuff you teach or what you do. So, and I'm not just going to like pick somebody that's my favorite, so to speak. I'm going to pick somebody that teaches or does something that I know enough about where I can read through the question too, and we can pick out things together that are wrong with it. Let's go to true or false now and see what this generates. Okay. Oh, I reached the limit. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. I can only get a couple for free, but we got the point there at the multiple choice. Okay. Now all of you will have it looks like because I did this sort of I guess I did multiple questions here. That's all my well, let's see if I refresh. Let's try the refresh feature. Okay, and maybe I can even go to another browser and stick it in there. Okay, let's see. Let's just see if I can get past this. True or false. All right. Ah, dang you. Okay, well, let's try to see if I'll go to another browser here. Okay, I'm gonna pull this up. I'll get on my email there. We'll just add a new tab here. Let's see. Dang it, get that on my face. All right. Let's go to this. We're just gonna put it in there. All right, here we go. Okay, now let me try this again. I'll go back here. So by opening a new tab, sometimes you can avoid this problem with browser tracking what you're doing. Get at least one use out of it. Let's go to true or false. Okay, meaning they're good. They got my IP, you monsters. Oh well. Okay, so I just want to see what true and false was. But at any rate, you saw by the outputs that I generated there for the multiple choice questions that over half of the questions had something wrong with them. And this isn't that much information to assimilate. An undergraduate who hasn't learned anything about Dracula could have probably generated better better questions, multiple choice out of this information than the AI just did. It assimilated fairly well. That's generally what I've seen for most AI. There are better, chatbots out there. But okay, so I think the best thing to do now currently, I can see some hands going up there. Okay, perfect. We got over 15 minutes left. What I wanted to first do, I guess, is maybe open the floor for some questions. I can see Stephanie has a question there. But I also then thought it would be great for maybe to have at least one or two of you go to the same site. Again, I put this link into the chat. Go to the site, get some information from some website about something you know about. Stick it in there for multiple choice, true or false question. And then I guess with permission of the people that are running this, we're then going to get you to share your screen and we're going to see what it generates. And we're going to have you go through as basically like an extra co-host and see what's correct and incorrect and how well the AI generated questions. So why don't we get some basic just Q&A out of the way first before we try that with them. Based on our time, we probably have enough time for one, maybe two people to try this. But I gave you you all have the website, so you can try it yourself, anytime you want. This is just one website like this. There are tons others out there. There are tons of different forms of chatbots and image generators you can try. Trust me, tons of them. Okay, so why don't we do some questions first? Now, all right. So when I do this, I think I have to get a Q&A, correct? Is that what we're doing here? They have to add questions to the Q&A, Morgan?
Hey, Stanley, I just sent you a direct message with some of the questions people have been asking in the chat.
Oh, a direct message to my phone?
The Zoom chat, to the Zoom chat.
Oh, to the Zoom chat. Oh crap. Wait,
Yeah,
okay.
I can send it again.
Yeah. Go ahead, send it to me.
Yeah.
So you just put it in the whole general chat.
I put it in a chat to you, but I can also do it in.
Yeah, if you don't mind, stick it in the whole general chat. That way everyone can see it. Okay, let's see. Okay, let's see. Doesn't it all depend on the AI's architecture and its training material? I mean, yeah, of course. Okay, so let me give you some basics here. So I'm not sure who asked that, but I'll just respond to this one. Doesn't it all depend on the AI's architecture and its training material? Of course. So this particular site, based on the output I saw there in comparison to what I've used in my own textbook, seems a little weaker than the one I have used. You'll encounter that for sure. So it does depend on who's programmed it and also who's trained it. So the way that the training works is human beings, not robots. Human beings go through various tons of different prompts, anything you can think of within the tiers to see how the AI generates from these prompts. So then when they go through, they essentially have to, so when people are training AI, they have to go through in detail and explain any mistakes in the syntax, grammar, the information provided and why it's wrong. And then the programmers look at that and then they have to add all these, it's a constant back and forth process. So yeah, it does depend a little bit on that in terms of what your output is, but you can find better models easier. I just tried to find something that was open source. I've used Gen AI a lot. It has helped do all sorts of stuff from summarizing, editing, paraphrasing. Anytime AI edits my work, the result is often much better than what I provide. Ooh, interesting. I am beginning to gradually overlook myself. Aren't you concerned that if this continues, one would develop some dependency on AI? Well, to mention what I said again with the earlier when I was talking about Isaac Asimov, that's the big thing he's talking about in iRobot. Basically, just to give you the basics of that book, each story is a sort of separate idea within this robot world where it starts with like the sort of prehistory of robotics and how it began, and then by the end, the robotics is very advanced. And so it shows you over time how human beings essentially became dependent on AI or on robots until where eventually robots take over the world, but they don't do it forcefully. Robots take over the world by basically making it, as you essentially say there, making us dependent on them, and then we can't get away from it anymore. It's like we're dependent on these phones, right? We sit there playing Clash of Kings and TikToking all day. We're very dependent on these things. So yes, there is of course a danger there, but again, one of the issues we have currently in discussions of AI and where it's going to be in the future is there's only so much we can foresee based on what we have. How far will it go from here? You can't say. Just like 100 years ago, nobody could say we would have one of these. No one would be able really to foresee the exact thing that we got eventually. Telephones on the wall where you actually had to click to dial somebody out. Nobody would know that eventually it'd be all digital. Like they wouldn't even know what digital was. So yeah, I mean, of course, there is always going to be some concern about that because it's just a human thing. We like to think we're important. We don't want to find ourselves replaced to the extent that we are no longer useful. This has been a big discussion of AI in education. What if AI gets so good we don't need teachers anymore? We just have the AI do that. It's like this checkouts we have at supermarkets. Why do we have these self-checkout things? Well, because they have one person working all those. You could expect something similar if AI gets good enough, where you have one person working with AI and making sure if it's teaching, that it's teaching properly, which means you have to go through everything it does and basically prepare lectures for it. So yeah, there's some concern about that, but again, based on what it does currently, it's hard to say where it will go. Does open exams have options for different styles of questions? Well, so down there we saw it has multiple choice. It has true and false. To be honest, I haven't personally on this site tried open question to see what it generates. All of the AI systems that I've used to generate multiple choice questions like this and to test them that I have seen have been just multiple choice and true and false. I haven't seen any. I think there are some fill in the blank ones. That's fairly easy to do, but the fill in the blank ones I've seen quite often the generation that comes out of that prompt usually it's just like random words that aren't in there, not necessarily words that are meaningful that you have to put into the blank. So they're getting there, but currently I've seen primarily multiple choice. Does open exams allow you to attach a PDF or PowerPoint and generate questions from the content? I don't know if this site does. I know other sites that do for sure. In the system I use for lecture questions, for example, it will go through, and if I stick an AI question instead of lecture slides, it will go through all the previous slides and generate a question from there. If there's enough text within those slides for it to get information from. If it's a bunch of pictures, it won't do much at all. Okay, I'm in statistics and research methodology. Can it get good test questions that are problems to solve? Well, since I'm from the humanities, I can't attest to you exactly what it's going to do for mathematical questions. In general, if you're feeding it enough information about how to use different formulae and stuff, the output should be actually fairly good based on what I've seen. But I haven't personally worked with that type. Okay, don't let AI steal your voice. Okay, students can do the same thing to generate questions to get correct answers to prepare for their exams. Now that's a good concern. Within the textbook that I use, for example, there actually is a special AI assistant in there with its own little nickname, and students can use that to figure out things in the textbook to answer the tech questions that are embedded in there. But I show them at the start of every semester. I say, now you're going to look at this and think, oh, I don't have to read. I'm just going to ask this thing what the answer is. The good thing is that it's not assimilating information from the actual correct answers from the question. It's just gleaning from the text. And whenever I show them what it generates, I'll do the same thing I did for you and say, that's wrong, this is wrong, that's wrong. If you try to rely on this to answer these questions and you don't use your own mind to read and assimilate yourself, you're probably going to end up with a bad grade. So they can try, but in lots of cases, it's probably not going to be as good as they think. Yeah, this AI tool is very similar to Chat GPT. It's a similar thing. Okay, got Gemini here. Okay, new name for board. Okay, let's see. Questions in here.
All right, Stanley, we have about 10
Yeah.
minutes. If you
Oh,
want
10
to,
minutes, 10 minutes. Okay, so why don't we try to pick one of you then? This is gonna be hard to do because there's a lot of you. I would like one of you to try this if you don't mind doing it. Sharing your screen, going to the website link. I'll put it in the chat again so everyone has this link. Okay. Again, we're doing a very simple form of AI here just to show you how it works. I didn't want to get too complex because I wasn't sure of the overall listener base here and how many of you are familiar with using AI. Okay. Let's see here. Oh, looks like Jan may have tried something already. So let's see. Jan McNeil. Is this from your own experience, or did you actually already just try this yourself using this website? If you don't mind responding there, Jan McNeil. Because if so, then we're going to use whatever you got out of it. Yeah, there's a link. All right. So let's maybe try this now. Anyone, let's say I'm just going to be, I'm sorry, sciences, but my calculus days are over. I don't remember any of that stuff. No offense, I loved it, but I don't remember it, so I won't be able to judge if something is correct or not. Anyone here in the humanities? Okay. Okay, Rosemary, I would agree with you currently at least. All right. Oh, so Jan's used multiple AIs. Okay, so you're familiar with it. Let's try to get someone there that's who here has never used AI. Let's start there. I'll just look who says it first. Okay. Natalie. So have you ever used AI? Natalie Corda. Okay, you have. Let's see if anyone who hasn't, but we'll remember you. Anyone here who's listening to this who has not used AI at all, or at least let's say AI to generate questions like this. Okay, Jan's used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different ones. Anyone who hasn't used AI at all? Any of you? That's what I'm looking for. Anyone who hasn't used AI at all?
if you raised your hand, please go ahead and say something in the chat so that we can
Yeah,
find it.
yeah, because there's a lot of people in here. Anyone who hasn't used it? Okay, so the ones raising their hands are people that haven't used it. No, I see Stephanie at the top there. I'm just gonna, so Stephanie Westmeyer, I'm gonna assume you haven't used it at all. Let's see. Sorry, I teach a workshop on AI, so it isn't me. Okay, so no, not Lisa. Okay, so Stephanie, I don't care what your background is. Now we're going to skip that and not worry if you're for humanities or sciences or something like that. Um, so Stephanie, since you're just the first up there with hand raised, do you mind being somebody to try out this AI generated question system here yourself for us? And we're going to have to do share screens. We can do that, correct, Morgan? We can have somebody else also be like a co-host. They can share.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay, Stephanie already has. Let's go. Let's go with Stephanie Westmeyer. She's at the top there with hand raised, and this looks like she already tried it. So why don't you make her a co-host? We'll have her share the screen, which means I have to stop my share, correct? And then we'll go to her. Okay. All right, Morgan, you're gonna have to make her co-host.
Just
You got
made co-host.
okay.
Stephanie, are you able to share your screen now?
Let's see. Yeah, there's a little bit of an experimental. Okay, great. Perfect. Okay. Oh, okay. Now, let's see. Create true or false statements based on the following information. There are 30 statements in use by. Okay, so just quick question to Stephanie here. Where did you get this information from? So the information I'm going to assume you cut and pasted in here probably. Where did you get this from?
I did. I followed your example, went to Wikipedia.
Oh, okay. So you just pulled up something you're interested in and know something about.
Mhm,
Okay.
mhm.
All right. All right. I guess scroll down then. Let's see what we get. You're going to try the true and false. You're going to try the multiple choice. Now, this is something that, I played baseball as a kid. I was really bad at it. So I don't know any of this stuff. Okay. But there's enough information there. I could maybe look at, okay. So you got true and false. Okay. You're going to generate some true and false. Let's see what we got. Okay. All right. So now, Stephanie, are you good enough with this information to know what we're looking at here? Because I don't. So to me, Fenway Park in Boston is the oldest ballpark in Major League Baseball. I don't know if that's true or false.
It is.
Okay. So far, looking at this here, Fenway Park in Boston, oldest ballpark in Major League Baseball. Okay. Now, if you were putting this on the test or something, you probably would just remove the statement colon part, because why the heck would you need that? Okay. So that one's good. Let's go to question 2. We got question 2.
I'm sorry. Okay.
No, it might tell you generated too many today.
Yeah,
Let's see.
I think I accidentally got out of it. So,
Oh, they're still there. It's still letting you do the
okay.
same one. Okay, so just you should be able
Oh,
to
here we
scroll
go.
down a
All
little
right.
bit.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay, Globe
So this,
Life. Go ahead.
so this is a false one because we know that our it's the newest one.
Okay, so this question is correct. Okay, good. Okay, what
Yeah.
about question 3?
There are 25 Major League Baseball parks with natural grass.
Okay,
And I think
is
that's
that
true, yes.
okay?
This is 4 is correct because there are 9 parks that do not have corporate naming rights.
Okay, so we're
Um,
good. It's good so far. Okay.
and then Dodger Stadium obviously doesn't either. Kauffman Stadium, I think this is correct as well. I'll have to double check the construction of the 2 MLB parks.
Yeah. Now, just to pause you real quick there. One thing I can say so far is that the wording actually has been quite good in all of these, in my opinion. There's very little that I would personally change. I maybe take out the statement stuff and stuff like that. But okay, so I guess you can go back to. Well, I guess you can stop the sharing screen. I don't have anything else to share, so we can go
Yeah.
back, maybe answer a few questions. But again, this is very simple way of using AI. I just wanted to use something simple here, just assuming that there were at least some of you that have no background in this whatsoever to show you how it works. And of course, the link is put in there. Now I saw someone ask out there about using AI to generate lecture slides for like a PowerPoint. I am pretty definite there is something, but I'm not remembering the name of it currently. I've done work primarily with training AI for various outputs and like text and stuff like that and assimilating information, not just for questions, but like big bulk information, like, like an article and stuff like that. Um, Okay, let's see. So let's see. Mary says here, as much as AI is very helpful in providing information as it doesn't seem to help with the user's individual. Yeah, of course. This is one of the things it currently lacks, as I said in my earlier part of the talk. It doesn't have that human creativity yet. Will it ever? It's possible, but we can't really foresee that level yet. Based on what we currently have, it's able to do only so much. It really is only able to be creative in terms of what you give it that somebody did creatively, if that makes sense. So when it generates a fake painting or something like that, it's pulling from tons of sources to try to get that information from. It will these chat bots will pull stuff from Google Maps, Google reviews, and sometimes the details it pulls in there aren't correct because sometimes human beings aren't correct. So it requires a lot of work to go through there. So Chat GPT does have it. So someone wanted to know that they have slide deck, update file, use outline of PowerPoint slide deck. Good to know. And there's my personal slide deck. Okay, we got like 3 minutes there left. Any other quick questions from anybody? If not, that's fine. Feel free to type them in there right now or in the Q&A there. But hope you got something out of this. Again, I was trying to be, generally simple, give you some ideas, the current philosophy of AI training and how it works, and AI questions and how you could potentially utilize them for your own teaching or whatever you might do. There are tons of different ways to use it, but I've tried to make it, simple as possible so you can see like the basics of it. Yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming here today. Let's see. Liz asked, how are you talking with students about the intellectual property concerns with large language models and visual creators? To be honest, this isn't something I touch on too much because when I have used AI for my courses, it really has been only within my textbooks to help generate some questions and to save a little time. That's how I have used it. So the intellectual property really in that case is all owned by me anyway, which means generally speaking, the AI question that's generated in those textbook chapters really is owned by me. So I'm not really too much of a concern with that. It's not really something I've discussed because I'm in the humanities. It's, my classes are about like vampires and folklore and films and stuff like that. So, I'll mention these things, but I don't get into the details like I did here. Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Feel free to always email me, and stuff like that. My email's pretty easy to find.
We're going to go ahead and wrap up. I appreciate everyone who asked
Okay.
questions. Thank you so much, Stanley. This was a fantastic session. Very, very interesting
Yeah,
and
thank you.
I'm going to go ahead and add the agenda for Summit in the chat
Mhm.
in case you're to attend any of the upcoming sessions. And thank you so much again. We will have a email at the end or after tomorrow with all of the videos for our recorded session. So you'll be able to rewatch this. And I'll go ahead and add the slide deck link again too, just so you can see it the first one.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Stanley, I do have a
Yes,
question before we log off, Morgan, if I
sure.
may ask it.
Go ahead.
So one of the concerns is that once information is put in to AI, then it becomes public. So how do you, what's your concern, or how do you address, like taking your information from your class lecture notes and inputting it to generate questions?
I
Is that a
personally,
concern? Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'll say for me, I personally don't have a problem with that. If my information that I've utilized in my textbook is going to help somebody learn, I mean, it's about vampires specifically, but if it's going to help somebody learn more about vampires and the AI pulls it from one of my textbook chapters or something like that, which currently they can't do, by the way, I honestly wouldn't, that's not something I would mind. Now, one detail there that I know people have been working with is having the AI attribute where it gets its information from, like a sourcing or citation sort of system so that information just isn't simply assimilated as so in my textbook chapter it's all my own work and then the AI will go through and assimilate what I wrote. But if it's assimilating things from other people, I know there are people that are already working on it, making sure that it cites and says this came from this quote from this, which is what people do in generally, any scholarly publication. You're supposed to give your sources and things, otherwise you're plagiarizing. So I can see the concern, but again, based on the way that AI is being built currently, and basically it's following Asimov's 3 laws, there are already tons of attempts to make sure it doesn't do things like that and break these sort of rules in academia, so to speak.
All right. Thank you so much for
Mhm.
that perspective.
Yeah,
Appreciate
no
the help.
problem.
Thank you, Stephanie, for participating and showing us your screen. That was great.
Yeah, and I see Mary's concern there. Feel free to email me, talk some more, whatever.